Back in 2021, I started experimenting with different wildlife setups. I got the Sony RX10 Mark IV. That was crap. And Olympus, look at the little 75 to 300 lens. That was cute. And then Fuji, I was borrowing the 70 to 300. And I became sold because it was so fun. I love getting out in nature, love going for walks, and then seeing all these different animals and then filming them and trying to film them more likely. As soon as you get it lined up, it's gone. It was fun. It became a challenge and a hobby. And for some reason, I think I know why, Sony, I haven't been doing it as much. And today we talk about why, Sony.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
So today I will overlay footage I got of magical red admiral butterflies that swarmed a cherry blossom tree with bees scattered throughout, and they got along. Filmed with the Sony Behemoth whale freak made of whale bones. It's heavy, it's clinical. So there's 3 reasons that I stopped going out almost daily for these walks and always bringing my camera and making like 2 wildlife videos a week. And if you look back to, I think it was 2021 or 2022, it was largely like a wildlife channel over here. So the first non-camera related reason, and then we get into the 2 evil camera conspiracies that keep me from nature. The first thing that happened was they shut down my trail for no reason whatsoever. My magical trail that I used to always go down, it was like a 2-hour walk along a little creek. No one ever took that path. There's a main path, and then if you go through the trees a bit, you're on another path that's a little more difficult, but it's next to the water, and I was always seeing herons and something new. I was getting swarmed by black flies. It was fantastic. Stinging nettle patches. It was fun times. And so for some reason, they have shut that off, and they're saying it's for construction. They're building something, but it's been 2 years that's been closed off, and that was my favorite walk. And now there's another walk you can go north a bit, but I almost never see anything there, and it's much more basic of a trail. And then the little one near my house is cool, but it's very short. And that's like, I don't know, man, there's the brickworks, but that's very like populated, and it's not like a ton happening. It's always the same thing. I could ride my scooter to different locations, and I probably will do that soon, but it just, that was my place, and they took it from me for no reason. They're just doing fake construction all over the city, guaranteed. It's just like, oh, let's just tear this road up just to inconvenience us and like irritate us. Those are the people who run this world. Just, how can we irritate and poison people? We're taking our world back soon, you stupid monkey bitch. The second reason I stopped going out as much was because for the longest time, I was kind of comparing setups and in search for the perfect wildlife setup. And eventually I settled on a system, and then the fun wore off. It's always the chase that is the most fun part of any endeavor. It's the journey. It's like, okay, how can we get this? And we're getting it. And then once you get it, what do you do then? You use it like it's stupid. If you're a UFC fighter, you win the belt. It's like, okay, now what? Defend the belt? Who cares? You win the NBA championship. Like, yeah, we won. Next day, you're like, all right, what's next? Oh, man, I have a family. At least they're rich little babies. So after all the comparisons, I noticed that Sony was the sharpest. And it's full frame, and it's like, yeah, of course, that's your goal here. We've reached it. And so I settled with this. A7S III, you can't beat it. You got your 4K 120p or HD 240. Pretty good manual focus and autofocus. Decent zoom range. After trying the Fuji X-H2S and the new animal eye detect was so abysmally bad and unreliable and constantly hunting, I was like, that sucks, man, because Fuji was my system. And then I upgraded for some stupid reason with the X-H2S instead of the X-T4. When I was on the X-T4, I just back button focused, and then if it wasn't there, I manual focus tweaked, and it was pretty good. And it was fun little switch, 4K 60 or HD 240. And it was like such a big difference that like super sharp 4K but only 60 frames, and then ultra slow-mo. was a good little balance there. And then the XH2S like didn't really improve. If anything, the 240 got worse. For some reason, it's a 38% crop instead of 29% of the XD4, and it's the same megapixels, so I don't know why they did that. And then the noise pattern got so much worse. It was basically unusable above base ISO. So it's like, that sucks. And so like we stuck with Sony, which brings us to the third reason. I've never been inspired by the footage that comes out of this piece of crap. It's full frame, it's sharp, it's in focus, but it's a digital nightmare. There's never a magical moment. Pretty much everything I've ever filmed on at some point has given me like this magical moment where I'm like, wow. Whether it's the Fuji, I'm just like, holy cow, those colors. Oh, wow, super stable. Or the Panasonic G9 II with that Leica 200mm prime. It's like, wow, that is magic. Micro Four Thirds is better than full frame, if anything. Even the little Olympus EM1 Mark III with the 75 to 300 cheapest lens you could ever get. I was getting some stuff where I'm just like, that's your budget option and it destroys you. So it's like technically the Sony footage is better. It's sharper, it's more dynamic range, more blur in the background, everything about it, but there's a couple things I hate about the footage. One is the stabilization. I just don't know how to hold it because it's such a front heavy lens. As you can see, it's already falling. And then the camera's here, and every time, if you hold it here, it's pivoting. And these tiny little movements, just this, is enough to be looking like that in your shot. So it's so annoying. I don't know how to hold it to get it perfectly still. And when I do eventually do that, as I look through the viewfinder, it's heavy as hell and it's really annoying. And have you noticed my T-Rex arms do not really allow. I feel like a better human being would have a longer forearm and it would be higher. Notice how, like, if this was resting like it should against my ribs, I can't see the camera unless I point downward, which is never a good shot. So it's like, there's no comfortable way to hold this piece of shit, and it's always not stable, and it's heavy, and it's clinical. Whereas the Fuji, I don't know how, because your vlogging stage sucks, trailing the industry. But when you're telephoto, it's like rock solid. It doesn't move at all, and it was perfect. And the 100 to 400 was kind of heavy, but it was doable. And the 70 to 300's a joke, that thing's so light. So I just became kind of uninspired with the footage I was getting. My favorite trail was gone. I had nothing to compare it to because nothing's being released new that's fun and exciting. Oh my goodness, I wouldn't mind trying a Z8. But like even then, I lose my 240 frames. It's so stupid. 800mm prime though. Even heavier than this though. Ouch. So you'd have to go 600mm prime. A little lighter. Is that enough? It often isn't. Picture this dream scenario. Fuji comes out with the XH3S, fixing all the problems of the XH2S. Lower megapixel, super HD 480 frames, 4K 240. They come out with a Wildlife Prime, either 400mm or 500, 5.6 or something like that. Boom. Wow, I'm happy. This is amazing footage. I think I would still yearn for more once I reach that pinnacle because there's never a stopping of it. It's just like, okay, this is cool. What would be better? Stop that mindset. Just be happy with what you have, unless it's a Sony clinical piece of shit. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but in my experience, animals prefer to be filmed on Fuji cameras. It's not something you can really prove scientifically, but as I walk into nature, I just notice more magical moments happen when I'm on a Fuji. When the birds see that you have a Sony label, they're like, they burrow underground. They hide in their nests. Doesn't matter if it was their nest. They just need to get in any nest to get away from you because you have clinical Sony footage that's going to be so over sharpened and digital and unmagical because it was made by reptilians with no soul that they leave the area and they don't come to see what's that? What are you filming on? Is that a vintage food? What are you doing classic neg on this one? Bleach bypass, really? Okay, let's try it. And then they dance. They dance in front of you and they bring their friends. It's a party. But Sony, nobody ever comes into the shot because they can feel that I would be disappointed with it. The animals read this. They're like, he's not even going to like this footage. He hates it. I'm out of here. And they fly with speed in the wind. So I will try to muster the motivation to leave the house with this giant whalebone bitch and show you the clinical data that is received in zeros and ones. And we push on until something better is announced, but it doesn't look likely that we're getting something better than this. But I really do want to simplify my setup to where I'm just happy with one system, and I do feel it's either going to be Fuji or Nikon. Just throwing it. Just a little toss. The arch. Are you going to catch it? I don't know. Is it going to land near you? I'm thinking that's the way. But Sony, sure, you're going to come out with your next thing is 4K, 480 frames per second. It's like, holy cow, look, we have a new Prime, 800mm Tony 8. And it's like, wow, Sony, they really are the leaders. Will you ever get an image that doesn't make me want to throw up in my mouth, feed that to a bird, and film it with a Fuji camera instead of whatever the hell this is? We're on Sony right now. It's disgusting. I'm disgusted. Even though it's a Zeiss Batis and the most magical thing you could ever dream of, I would have to adapt this lens to a Nikon body to fully appreciate it. I'll leave. So that's why butterflies exist. And what should I do? I am lost in a wildlife world. I don't know, Son. You're good, but I also hate you. Fuji links are available. Are you subscribing for more videos on aesthetics?